Eli walked slowly down the empty corridors of the spaceport. The lights flickered above him and the hum of distant engines filled the air. Most of the travelers never noticed him. He was just the janitor, the one who swept the floors and cleaned the hallways while everyone else hurried past. He had no rank, no respect, and no one cared about him. But Eli did his work quietly without complaining. He liked the silence. It gave him time to think. He often imagined adventures in faraway worlds, where humans were heroes, strong and brave. Here, on the crowded spaceport, humans were rare, and even rarer were ones who mattered. Eli sometimes wondered if anyone would ever notice a human doing something important. On this morning he was pushing a mop through the docking bay when he heard a soft, strange sound. At first he thought it was a machine failing, but the sound continued. It was a quiet, pitiful cry. He looked around and saw nothing. The docks were empty except for some cargo crates and distant starships. He followed the sound carefully, moving behind a stack of containers. There, in a small dark corner, he saw two tiny creatures huddled together. They were no bigger than a cat, with shiny scales and small wings that trembled. One of them had a scratch along its side, and the other limped slightly. Eli gasped. He had never seen anything like them. They were dragon hatchlings. Eli knelt down slowly, careful not to frighten them. "It's okay," he whispered. "I won't hurt you." The hatchlings looked at him with wide, scared eyes. One of them sneezed, and a small spark flew from its nostrils. Eli's eyes widened in surprise, but he didn't pull back. He knew they were weak and needed help. The spaceport had rules. No one was allowed to touch alien creatures, especially dragons. Security would have been furious if they saw him. But Eli didn't care. The hatchlings were small, helpless, and alone. He could not leave them to suffer. He gently picked them up, one in each arm. They shivered but didn't fight him. They seemed to sense he wanted to help. He carried them to a maintenance room, a place few workers entered. The room was dusty with old tools and forgotten supplies, but it was safe. Eli cleaned a small area and laid them down on a blanket he found in a crate. He looked at their wounds. The scratch on the first hatchling was shallow but dirty. The second hatchling's leg seemed sprained. Eli frowned. He didn't have proper medicine, but he remembered some first aid techniques. He cleaned the wounds carefully, humming softly to calm the hatchlings. They seemed to relax under his touch, leaning against him like they trusted him already. Eli smiled for the first time in a long while. He talked to them gently, giving them names in his mind. He decided to call the first one Ash, for the tiny sparks it sneezed, and the second one Ember, for the warmth it gave off even when it was weak. Over the next few hours, Eli fed them small drops of water and chewed food he softened for them. He made sure they were warm. He sat with them, talking quietly, telling them stories about humans and the stars. He imagined them growing strong and flying through the spaceport with him by their side. For the first time he felt important. He was not just a janitor. He was a protector. Eli knew he had to keep them hidden. The authorities would take them away. Some of the aliens who worked nearby had strange shapes and sharp eyes. If they saw him they might report him. But Eli did not mind. The hatchlings needed him and that was enough. He promised himself that he would not leave them no matter what. By evening the hatchlings were calmer. They curled up near Eli and slept, trusting him completely. Eli sat back on a chair, exhausted but happy. He watched them carefully, feeling a warmth in his chest he had never felt before. No one had ever thanked him for sweeping floors or emptying trash. But these two tiny dragons had already given him something more valuable. They had given him a sense of purpose. The spaceport continued its busy life outside the walls of the maintenance room. Ships landed, aliens argued, and humans rushed by, still ignoring Eli. But inside, in that small corner, a human janitor was no longer forgotten. He was a hero, at least to two small creatures who had no one else. He whispered softly, "You're safe now. I will take care of you." Eli did not know what the future would bring. He did not know if the dragons would survive or if anyone would ever find out what he was doing. But he did not care. For now he had a mission and it mattered. He had found courage he never knew he had. He had found a reason to hope. As he sat there watching Ash and Ember sleep, a thought crossed his mind. Maybe humans were not weak after all. Maybe, even in a crowded spaceport full of powerful aliens, a human could make a difference. And maybe, just maybe, someone important would notice one day. Eli smiled. For now that was enough. Eli woke early the next morning, careful not to wake Ash and Ember. The two tiny dragons were curled up together on the blanket he had made for them. Their scales had a faint glow in the dim light of the maintenance room, and their small wings twitched as they dreamed. Eli smiled quietly. They had slept through the night and that was a good sign. It meant they were stronger already. He moved slowly, gathering water and some soft food he had prepared the day before. The hatchlings stirred and opened their eyes when they smelled him. Ash let out a tiny squeak and flapped its wings, while Ember blinked up at him. Eli knelt and set the food near them. "Eat carefully," he whispered. "You need your strength." Ash nibbled at the food and Ember followed, though more slowly. Eli spent the morning checking their injuries. The scratch on Ash's side was healing well, and the swelling on Ember's leg had gone down a little. He cleaned the wounds gently again and whispered encouragement to them. "You're doing so well. You're stronger than you know." The hatchlings listened with wide eyes, and Eli felt a warmth in his chest he had never felt before. They trusted him completely. He realized they needed more than food and healing. They needed comfort, safety, and warmth. Eli gathered extra blankets and made a small nest in the corner of the room. He patted it carefully and laid Ash and Ember inside. They curled up together and he watched them for a long time, studying their movements. He noticed that Ash liked to flap its wings when happy, and Ember liked to nuzzle against him when it was scared. Eli began to learn their little personalities. While caring for them, Eli also thought about their future. They could not stay hidden forever. Eventually, the authorities or other aliens might notice something unusual. He knew he would have to be careful, but for now he focused on keeping them alive and safe. Even a few days of life could make a huge difference for them. He promised himself that he would not give up. The spaceport outside was noisy and busy, but Eli rarely left the room. He cleaned quietly in the corners, repaired small equipment, and sometimes whispered stories to the hatchlings about humans, space adventures, and the stars. Ash and Ember seemed to respond to his voice, flapping wings or nudging him as if they understood. Eli laughed softly. "Maybe you understand more than you let on," he said. As the day went on, Eli noticed the hatchlings were growing more confident. Ash tried to flap its wings stronger and even hopped a little, while Ember experimented with standing on its leg. Every small movement made Eli clap softly. "Good job. You can do it." He could see that they were learning quickly. He realized that even in their weakness they had courage. Eli spent hours training them gently. He taught them to respond to his voice and gestures. Ash seemed quicker to understand, while Ember was careful but eager. He even made a small obstacle with crates and boxes so they could practice climbing and hopping. Every time they succeeded, he praised them and they chirped happily. Evenings were the quietest part of the day. The spaceport outside grew calmer as the night shift began, but Eli stayed alert. He always made sure the hatchlings were safe before leaving them even for a few minutes. He knew that any mistake could be dangerous. But as he watched Ash and Ember sleep together in the small nest, he felt proud. They were healing, growing, and learning to trust him completely. Days passed like this. Eli's secret care became a routine. He brought them food, cleaned their small wounds, and trained them gently. He also spent time talking to them, imagining their lives as strong dragons one day. "You will be brave," he said. "You will be powerful. And you will always remember kindness." He believed in them and somehow they believed in him too. One afternoon, while cleaning near the storage area, Eli heard a few aliens talking about missing dragon eggs. He froze. If someone discovered the hatchlings, it could cause serious trouble. But he remained calm. He decided to be even more careful, making sure the hatchlings stayed hidden in the maintenance room. He knew that no one could protect them better than he could. The bond between Eli and the hatchlings grew stronger with every passing day. Ash would follow his hands, Ember would curl around his arms, and both would chirp softly when he approached. They were no longer just fragile creatures. They were becoming friends, companions, and students. And Eli felt that he was becoming something more too, a protector, a teacher, and someone who mattered even if no one else noticed. By the end of the week, the hatchlings were moving more confidently. They explored their small space, tried jumping and flapping, and sometimes even chirped at each other like they were playing. Eli watched, smiling, his heart full. He knew that soon they would be strong enough to survive outside the hidden room. But until that day came, he would care for them, protect them, and love them. Eli looked at Ash and Ember as they settled down to rest. "You're safe," he whispered. "And I will always be here for you." For the first time in his life, he felt that he had a purpose beyond mopping floors and emptying trash. He had saved lives, and in return they had saved him from feeling invisible, unimportant, and forgotten. And in the quiet of the maintenance room, a human janitor, once overlooked and unnoticed, discovered that even small acts of care could be heroic. Eli had been caring for Ash and Ember for a few days now. The hatchlings were stronger, more confident, and full of curiosity. They followed his hands, chirped happily when he approached, and even tried to flap their tiny wings to show their excitement. Eli felt proud, but he knew he had to be careful. The spaceport was full of aliens who would never understand why he was helping them. One morning, while Eli was cleaning a storage corridor, he overheard a conversation between two alien workers. "Did you hear about the janitor?" one said. "They say he's hiding dragon hatchlings somewhere in the docks." Eli froze. His heart beat fast. Rumors could spread quickly here. If the authorities found out, the hatchlings could be taken away or worse. He listened quietly, hoping the workers would leave, but they continued. "I saw him disappear into a maintenance room yesterday. Something was moving in his arms." Could it be true? The other alien gasped. Dragons? A human with dragons? Impossible. They laughed, but Eli knew how rumors worked. Even a joke could lead to trouble. Eli returned to the hidden room, trying to stay calm. Ash and Ember chirped at him, sensing his worry. He knelt beside them and stroked their tiny heads. "It's okay," he whispered. "We have to be careful now. No mistakes." The hatchlings nuzzled him, offering comfort in their small, warm way. Eli knew he could not stop caring for them, but he also had to protect them from the dangers of curious or greedy eyes. Over the next few days, the rumors spread slowly through the spaceport. Some aliens were curious, others skeptical, and a few were angry. Some said humans had no right to interfere with dragon hatchlings. Others whispered that maybe the janitor had discovered something rare and valuable. Eli ignored the gossip as best he could, but he knew he had to act smart. He strengthened the hidden room. He covered the windows, moved crates in front of the door, and created small hiding spots for Ash and Ember. He even built a tiny play area for them so they could practice flapping their wings and moving around safely. Every time someone came near, he pretended to be busy with cleaning or repairs. No one suspected that a human was secretly protecting the rare creatures. Despite the risks, Eli continued his care. He fed the hatchlings carefully, cleaned their small scratches, and encouraged them to practice small movements. Ash flapped its wings faster and attempted tiny jumps, while Ember balanced carefully on its legs and nuzzled him for comfort. Eli talked to them softly about patience and bravery, hoping they would grow strong enough to face the world someday. One afternoon, an inspector arrived in the corridor near the maintenance room. Eli's heart skipped a beat. The inspector, a tall alien with metallic scales, looked around suspiciously. "Janitor," the inspector said, "what are you doing here? This area is off limits." Eli smiled politely and held up his mop. "Just cleaning, sir. I'm making sure everything is safe and tidy." The inspector glanced at him but moved on, muttering about protocols. Eli let out a silent sigh of relief. The hatchlings chirped and jumped when he returned. "That was close," he whispered. "You're safe. Don't worry." He realized that every day would have its own risks, but the small victories made it worth it. Ash and Ember were learning to trust him completely. They relied on his guidance, and Eli relied on his own courage and quick thinking to keep them safe. As rumors spread, some aliens began to watch him more closely. They were curious about the secret janitor and what he was hiding. Eli noticed it, but he never let it show. He moved calmly, cleaned quietly, and continued his care for Ash and Ember. Every glance from others reminded him that the hatchlings depended on him. He could not fail them. By the end of the week, Ash and Ember were noticeably stronger. Ash could flap higher and even jump onto small boxes, while Ember moved steadily, practicing balance. Eli's heart swelled with pride. He knew that soon the hatchlings would be ready for the next challenge, the world outside the hidden room. But for now he had to remain vigilant. Rumors would come and go, and some might even reach the authorities. He had to be smart and careful to protect his friends. Eli watched them settle down for the night. He stroked their tiny heads and whispered, "No matter what happens, I'll keep you safe. We will get through this together." Ash and Ember chirped softly, curling up close to him. Eli realized that even as rumors spread, fear and danger surrounded them, the bond they shared was stronger than any gossip. He had become their protector, their teacher, and their friend. In that quiet moment, Eli understood something important. He might be just a janitor in the eyes of the world, but he was a hero to these two tiny lives. He had courage, patience, and a heart willing to care when no one else would. And though whispers and rumors filled the spaceport, none of that mattered inside the hidden room. Here, in the quiet, a human's care was enough to change the future of two young dragons. Eli had been caring for Ash and Ember for over a week now. The hatchlings had grown stronger, their wings fluttering confidently, their eyes bright and alert. Eli felt proud of them every day. He had spent hours feeding them, cleaning their small wounds, and teaching them gentle movements. They were no longer fragile and weak. They were curious, playful, and starting to trust the world, through him. One afternoon, the spaceport was unusually quiet. A strange hush filled the docking bay. Aliens moved slowly, whispering, and there was an unusual tension in the air. Eli was mopping near the maintenance room when he noticed the shift. His heart beat faster. Something important was happening. Suddenly, a shadow fell across the doorway. Eli looked up and froze. A massive figure stepped into the light. Scales of gold and deep red shimmered across its body, wings folded elegantly behind it. Its eyes glowed with intelligence and power. Eli's mouth went dry. He realized immediately who it was: the Dragon King. The Dragon King walked through the docking bay with authority. Aliens and humans alike bowed or moved aside. The king's gaze swept the area, sharp and commanding, until it fell on Eli. The janitor stood frozen, holding his mop like a shield, unsure if he should move or run. "You," the Dragon King said, its voice deep and echoing. "Human." Eli swallowed. "I know what you have done." Eli's heart raced. He had no idea how the king could know. He had hidden the hatchlings carefully, kept them safe from everyone. He had thought no one could ever discover his secret. Yet here was the Dragon King, looking directly at him, aware of every action he had taken. "You have cared for my children," the king continued, its glowing eyes softening. "When others ignored them, when others left them to suffer, you stepped forward. You nurtured them, protected them, and taught them to trust again." Eli's legs felt weak. He bowed his head, unsure how to respond. I only wanted them to be safe," he stammered. "They needed help." The Dragon King's gaze shifted to Ash and Ember, who were cautiously peeking from their hiding spot. Their little wings flapped as they saw their father. They chirped softly. The king's eyes glimmered, and it stepped closer. "You have shown courage and compassion," the king said. "Few beings, no matter how strong, could have done what you did. You risked much, and yet you acted out of kindness." Eli felt a warmth in his chest. He had never imagined that a human, a simple janitor, could earn such respect. No one at the spaceport had noticed him before. No alien had valued his work. But now the king himself was acknowledging his actions. For the first time, Eli felt important in a way he had never known. The Dragon King lowered its massive head closer to Eli. The smell of smoke and something sweet filled the air. "You have reminded us that even small hands can make a difference. Even the smallest creatures like humans can show great heart." Eli blinked. His hands trembled. He never thought of himself as brave. He never thought he had anything special. But standing here in the presence of the king, he realized that kindness and courage mattered more than size, strength, or status. Then the king turned to Ash and Ember. "See how far you have come," it said. "Your strength is in no small part because of this human. He has shown you what care and patience can do." Ash chirped happily and hopped forward, Ember following with cautious confidence. The hatchling's trust in Eli was evident, and the Dragon King seemed to smile, a deep, warm expression on its majestic face. "You are safe now," the king said, looking back at Eli. "No one will harm you or them. You have my respect and my gratitude. You have acted as a guardian when no one else could. That is a rare gift, human." Eli bowed deeply. "Thank you, your majesty," he whispered. He felt tears prick his eyes. Never in his life had anyone recognized him like this. Not his supervisors, not his co-workers, not anyone. But now, the most powerful dragon in the galaxy had seen him. The king nodded, then spread its wings slightly. Ash and Ember ran forward, climbing onto their father's massive feet. The king looked down at them and then back at Eli. "Your work is not done, human," it said. "But know this, you have proven that courage, compassion, and kindness are more powerful than fear or strength. You are a protector, and I honor you for it." Eli could hardly speak. He had spent years cleaning floors, unnoticed and ignored. He had never thought of himself as heroic. But now, in the quiet of the maintenance room, standing before the Dragon King and his children, he understood something important. A human, even one overlooked and small, could make a difference. A human's heart could change the fate of others, even dragons. As the Dragon King prepared to leave, Eli watched in awe. He realized that this moment would stay with him forever. His small acts of care, his quiet patience, his bravery and secrecy, had earned him recognition beyond his imagination. For the first time he felt truly seen. Ash and Ember chirped happily, fluttering their wings, and Eli reached out to stroke their scales. The king's presence remained in the room, a silent blessing, a promise that humans could matter in ways no one expected. And Eli smiled, knowing that his quiet courage had changed the lives of two tiny dragons, and perhaps even a powerful king, forever. Eli woke early that morning as he did every day, but he felt a strange excitement. The maintenance room felt warmer, brighter somehow, and Ash and Ember chirped cheerfully as if they sensed something important. Eli smiled at them, brushing his hand over their tiny scales. They were stronger now, flapping their wings with confidence and exploring their small space with curiosity. He felt proud, but he also felt nervous. Something had changed after the Dragon King's visit yesterday. As he prepared their morning food, there was a soft, deep knock at the door. Eli froze. He was not expecting anyone. The sound echoed through the empty corridors, slow and deliberate. Ash and Ember chirped nervously, huddling close to him. Eli's heart pounded. Could it be the authorities? Had someone discovered them? He took a deep breath and opened the door slowly. Standing there was the Dragon King, its golden and red scales gleaming in the soft morning light. Its eyes, bright and intelligent, met his. Eli's mouth went dry. He bowed instinctively, unsure if he should speak. Eli, the Dragon King said, its voice deep and calm. I have come to honor you. Eli blinked, surprised. Honor? He had only done what he thought was right. He had cared for Ash and Ember because they needed him. He had never expected recognition, and certainly not from the Dragon King himself. The king stepped closer, towering above him, yet moving with a quiet grace. Ash and Ember chirped and ran forward, jumping onto the king's feet. The hatchlings looked happy and safe. Eli felt a warmth in his chest as he watched them. The Dragon King's gaze returned to him. You have shown courage, kindness, and patience, the king continued. You have protected my children when no one else would. You have acted without thought of reward, and for that, I bring you a choice. Eli tilted his head, curious and cautious. A choice, your majesty? He asked softly. Yes, the king said. You may continue your life quietly here, unnoticed and safe as you always have. Or you may come with me and help raise, teach, and protect dragons. You will work alongside me in my court, bridging the worlds of humans and dragons. You will no longer be overlooked. Eli's heart raced. He had never imagined such an opportunity. He was just a janitor, a human who swept floors and cleaned rooms. He had never been seen as important, not by anyone. And now the Dragon King himself was offering him a place of honor. He looked down at Ash and Ember. The hatchlings chirped and flapped their wings as if urging him to accept. Eli smiled, feeling a sense of purpose he had never known. I will do it, he said finally. I will help you and protect them. The Dragon King nodded solemnly. Then it is settled. Your courage has earned my trust, and your heart has earned my respect. You will no longer be invisible. Eli followed the king through the corridors, Ash and Ember hopping happily along. The spaceport around them seemed ordinary, but to Eli, everything looked different. He felt seen, valued, and part of something greater than himself. Aliens and humans alike paused to watch as the Dragon King and his new human protector moved through the halls. No one said a word. Everyone understood that this human was no longer ordinary. The king led Eli to a grand chamber filled with ancient artifacts, glowing crystals, and maps of distant worlds. Dragons of all sizes rested and moved gracefully among the hallways. The king turned to Eli. Here is where your journey truly begins, he said. You will care for dragons, teach them, and help them grow. You will also show the galaxy that humans, even humble ones, can make a difference. Eli nodded, his chest swelling with pride and excitement. He had never imagined that his quiet life of cleaning floors would lead to something so incredible. Yet here he was, recognized not for strength, wealth, or power, but for his kindness, courage, and heart. Ash and Ember chirped happily, hopping onto his shoulders and arms. Eli laughed softly. They had grown fast and strong, and now they were ready to face the world with him. He realized that his life would never be the same. Every small act of care, every quiet decision to help, had led to this moment. The Dragon King looked at him one last time, wings spreading slightly. Remember, human, it said, even the smallest hands can shape great futures. Your heart is your greatest strength. Eli nodded, feeling the truth in the king's words. He looked at Ash and Ember and whispered, We're going to do great things together. The hatchlings chirped in agreement, and Eli smiled, knowing that his life, once ordinary and unnoticed, was now full of purpose, adventure, and hope. From that day on, Eli was no longer just a janitor. He was a protector, a teacher, and a friend to dragons. He had stepped through the door into a new life, one where courage, kindness, and heart mattered more than anything else. And as he followed the Dragon King into the bright corridors of the palace, Eli felt a joy he had never known. He had found where he truly belonged.